Let us take a moment to pause, to breathe, and to reflect on something that, though simple, holds profound power in our lives. Letting go. In our world, we often find ourselves tightly grasping for control, for certainty, for outcomes. We think that if we hold on hard enough, we can shape the future. The great power, you see, lies not in holding on, but in letting go. It is in the surrender to the flow of life that we truly find ourselves. There is a natural rhythm to everything, to the seasons, to the tides, to the breath in our lungs. And just as the trees let go of their leaves in autumn, so must we let go of what no longer serves us. But why do we resist this? Why do we fear the act of release? It is not because we are weak, but because we have been conditioned to believe that control is strength. We have been taught to hold tight to identities, to expectations, to things, as though they define us. But identity itself is a fleeting construct, ever-changing, ever-evolving. To truly experience life, we must be willing to release the old, to make room for the new. When we let go, we make space. Space for creativity, for growth, for unexpected joy. We stop trying to dictate the course of events, and instead we allow ourselves to be carried by the current. This act of surrender is not a resignation. It is a return to the natural state of being, flowing, effortless, unburdened. Imagine for a moment, what if we could stop clinging to the past, to the future, and to the idea of who we think we should be? What if we could simply be present, fully alive, in this moment? In that freedom, we would discover the peace that comes from knowing that life is not something to be controlled, but something to be lived. Letting go is not about weakness. It is about trust. It is the trust that life knows what it is doing, even when we do not. It is the faith that in the process of surrender, we are not losing, but gaining everything that truly matters. So today, I invite you to consider this. What are you holding on to? What is weighing you down, keeping you from moving freely? Perhaps it is an old regret, a fear of the unknown, or a dream that no longer serves your soul. Whatever it may be, consider what happens when you let it go. In that release, you may just find the most profound power of all. The power to live fully, to live freely, and to live in harmony with the flow of existence. We often find ourselves striving to control every aspect of our lives. From planning the smallest details of our day to trying to shape the future to our exact specifications, we believe that by maintaining tight control, we will ensure success, happiness, and security. Yet in this very pursuit, we often experience the opposite: stress, frustration, and disappointment. Control is an illusion. It feels real because it's so ingrained in our mindset, but in reality, most aspects of life are beyond our command. We cannot dictate the actions of others, the weather, or the future. We cannot control the course of events, no matter how hard we try. And yet we believe that if we just plan a little more, act a little faster, or hold on a little tighter, we can make everything turn out the way we want. But this kind of grasping only leads to anxiety and disillusionment, because control over things that are inherently uncontrollable is not possible. What we fail to see is that in trying to control the external world, we often ignore the internal world. We lose sight of our true nature, which is fluid and ever-changing. Our constant attempts to force life into a rigid shape prevent us from truly experiencing it. The more we focus on control, the more we detach from the present moment, from the natural flow of life, and from the freedom that comes with letting go. The freedom that comes with letting go. In moments when we stop trying to control, we discover something remarkable. The world unfolds without our interference, and often things happen in a way that exceeds our expectations. When we cease to cling to outcomes, we allow life to reveal itself in unexpected and beautiful ways. The more we hold on to the belief that we can control everything, the more we shut ourselves off from the potential for spontaneity, creativity, and joy. Life has a natural rhythm, much like the ebb and flow of the tides or the changing seasons. This rhythm is not something we can force or control. It simply is. Everything in nature follows a cycle, and yet we often resist this natural order. We attempt to impose our own schedules, desires, and expectations upon the world, trying to bend it to our will. But in doing so, we deny ourselves the opportunity to flow with life's inherent pace. The universe doesn't rush, and neither should we. In nature, everything unfolds at its own time. The bud does not force itself to bloom before it is ready, nor does the river struggle against the path it must take. Life has a way of moving, of evolving, that is both subtle and powerful. We, too, have an inner rhythm, a flow that knows when to move and when to rest, when to act and when to be still. When we learn to tune in to this rhythm, we begin to experience life with greater ease and grace. Trying to impose our will upon the natural flow of life only leads to frustration. It is as though we are swimming upstream, expending energy against the current, rather than allowing ourselves to be carried with the flow. The more we resist, the more difficult the journey becomes. The key to peace, then, lies not in controlling the current, but in surrendering to it. When we stop fighting against the natural flow of events, we begin to align ourselves with the world around us. This alignment doesn't mean passivity or inaction. It means that we recognize when to act and when to wait, when to hold on and when to let go. It means trusting that life will unfold as it should, and that we are part of that unfolding. By allowing ourselves to flow with the rhythms of life, we release the tension that comes with trying to force outcomes, and we find ourselves more connected to the world around us. Our identities are often the foundation upon which we build our lives. From a young age, we are taught to define ourselves by our roles, achievements, and external labels. We identify as students, professionals, parents, or friends. Attaching our sense of worth and purpose to these labels, these identities give us structure, direction, and a sense of belonging. But over time, these identities can become rigid, trapping us in fixed concepts of who we think we are. We begin to believe that we are limited by these roles, that they define the entirety of our being. However, letting go of our rigid identities allows us to embrace the fullness of who we can become. Free from the constraints of self-imposed limitation. Letting go of identity is not about losing who we are. It is about realizing that we are not confined to any single role or definition. Our essence is much more expansive than any label can capture. The moment we release the need to identify with a particular image or concept of ourselves, we open up to the possibility of experiencing life in a more authentic, expansive way. We can then move beyond the boundaries we have set and explore new dimensions of who we are. When we let go of these attachments to identity, we also free ourselves from the judgments and expectations that come with them. We stop trying to live up to the image others have of us, or the image we have of ourselves. In this release, we make room for creativity, spontaneity, and true self-expression instead of being confined by the limitations of past identities. We become open to new experiences, new roles, and new possibilities that may not have been imaginable when we were holding on to the old. Letting go of identity is, in essence, letting go of the need to control our image and embracing the unfolding mystery of who we are becoming. True freedom comes not from control, but from surrender. It is an act of letting go, of releasing the need to dictate every outcome and allowing life to unfold as it will. In our pursuit of freedom, we often mistake it for the ability to shape our reality, to mold it into the image we desire. But real freedom doesn't come from control. It comes from trust. Trusting that life, in all its unpredictability, has a way of guiding us to where we need to be. The act of surrender is not about passivity or resignation. It is not about giving up or yielding to fate without a sense of agency. Rather, it is about recognizing that there are forces beyond our comprehension and beyond our control that are at work in our lives. When we surrender, we acknowledge that we are part of a larger process, a greater whole that is unfolding in its own time and in its own way. Instead of fighting against it, we choose to flow with it, trusting that we will be guided toward what is right for us. In letting go, we release the tension that comes with trying to control every aspect of life. We no longer feel the need to manipulate every situation or every relationship, because we trust that things will unfold as they are meant to. This trust is a form of freedom because it removes the pressure we place on ourselves to always know the answers, to always have a plan, to always be in control. When we trust life's unfolding, we create space for the unexpected, for the serendipitous moments that bring joy and wonder. Trusting life does not mean that everything will always go smoothly. There will be moments of difficulty, uncertainty, and challenge. But in these moments, surrender offers a kind of peace, because we know that we do not have to face them alone, and that the struggle itself is part of the journey. When we trust, we release our fear of the unknown and open ourselves to the lessons that are waiting to be learned. We allow ourselves to be guided, to grow, and to evolve in ways we may never have expected. The present moment is where life truly exists. Everything we experience, everything we know, unfolds in the now. Yet how often do we spend our time either dwelling on the past or anxiously anticipating the future? Our minds constantly wander to what has been or what might be, and in doing so we miss the profound beauty and depth of what is happening right before us. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, and yet we live as though both hold the key to our happiness. But the truth is, the only place where we can truly experience life is in this very moment. When we allow ourselves to be fully present, we tap into a deeper sense of awareness. The mundane becomes extraordinary. The simple act of breathing, the sound of a bird singing, the warmth of the sun, all of these things are part of the present moment, and they contain the essence of life itself. Yet we often overlook them, distracted by thoughts of what was or what will be. In those moments of distraction, we lose touch with the richness of our experience. Being present doesn't mean that we stop planning for the future or reflecting on the past. It simply means that we recognize that the future is built from the present, and the past can only be understood from where we stand now. The key is to stop chasing after something outside of the present moment, as though it holds the key to our fulfillment. The more we focus on the now, the more we begin to see the interconnectedness of everything. We begin to notice how our thoughts, actions, and experiences all converge in this moment, creating the flow of life. When we are truly present, we let go of the need to control or predict outcomes. We release the anxiety that comes from thinking we must know what's next. Instead, we trust that life will unfold as it should, and we become more open to the beauty that is always here, right now. In being fully present, we experience peace. The worries of the past and the future no longer have power over us, and we are free to simply be. This freedom doesn't come from seeking or striving, but from allowing ourselves to fully embrace what is, in this moment, as it is. Letting go is ultimately an act of trust in life itself. We often think that in order to succeed, to achieve, or to live fully, we must exert control over every aspect of our lives. We believe that by forcing things into place, we can ensure a certain outcome. But in truth, the more we attempt to control, the more we limit ourselves, because we are not able to see the full picture. Life, with all of its complexities, cannot be reduced to the narrow confines of our expectations or desires. The wisdom of life lies in its unpredictability, in the unknown. Trusting life means acknowledging that we do not have all the answers, and that is okay. It means letting go of the need to have everything figured out, and accepting that sometimes the best course of action is to surrender to what is happening. When we trust, we allow life to take its own course, even if we don't fully understand where it's leading. In this surrender, we find a deeper sense of peace, because we no longer feel the constant pressure to control the outcome. Instead of fighting against the current, we allow ourselves to be carried by it, knowing that it will take us exactly where we need to be. Trusting life also means letting go of our attachments to specific outcomes. We often place our hopes and dreams in a fixed vision of what the future should look like. But life is rarely linear. It doesn't unfold according to a predetermined plan. When we hold on too tightly to a particular outcome, we close ourselves off to the possibility of something better, something we hadn't imagined. By trusting that life has its own wisdom, we open ourselves up to a greater sense of freedom and possibility. This trust does not mean passivity. It does not mean we stop making decisions or taking action. It simply means that we approach life with an open heart, ready to embrace whatever comes our way. When we trust, we act without the fear of failure, knowing that even setbacks are part of the greater process of growth and learning. In trusting life, we step into a flow where we no longer feel burdened by the need to control every detail. Instead, we embrace the journey as it is, with all its twists and turns, and we discover that in the end, life often knows best. By letting go of control, of rigid identities, and of the fear of the unknown, we open ourselves to the beauty and richness of the present moment. When we stop fighting against the current and trust in life's unfolding, we create space for true growth, creativity, and peace. Life is not something to be controlled, but something to be experienced with openness and grace. The paradox is clear. The more we let go, the more we gain. In this simple yet profound act of release, we find the power to live fully, freely, and in harmony with the world around us. Letting go is not an end, but a beginning. The beginning of living in alignment with the natural flow of life, where true freedom and peace reside.